Okay, so somebody asked if I would do a video where I describe my setup and I show how everything is set up here, what I use and what I work with in terms of both the video editing and my office, so I figured I would do that today. So this here is my side desk, which usually has my water or my apple juice, in this case both. I try to stay hydrated while working. I'm constantly drinking water. You see my phone over here, so this is my business phone line. Then I have my open broadcaster monitor over here, so that's next to the camcorder. So what I do with that is the open broadcaster monitor will show what I'm actually recording. So let's say I'm not sure where something is in the camera view. I can look right over there and I can see, oh, I have the board a little off camera. Oh, that connector pin is off camera. Let me move it over. I haven't used that as much as I used to, and I'll explain why as we go on. So on this desk is usually used for my water, the stack of things that I have to work on that day, or the computer that I'm working on at the time. And I also have just a few basics over here. So the basics that I have depends on my workload for the day. It'll just be my tools that I need for basic testing. And so I have an iPhone board here to steal things from. I have a DC-in board for MacBook Air. I have a DC-in board for MacBook Pro, some trackpads, screen cables, fans, a speaker to hear the chime, and that's that. So that's my side desk. Now here is my primary desk. So here on the primary desk, on the right side is soldering, on the left side is testing and inspection, and in the middle is my video editing and also what I use for schematics and whatnot. So I used to have this little thing under the desk. I used to have something that pulls out, but what I realized is it's really annoying. Very few of them fit this IKEA desk properly because I have this bar under the IKEA desk. And also when I would move in like this, I would wind up hitting it. So what I did is I got the smallest wireless keyboard I could get. It's not the best thing to type on, but it's very good in terms of it not taking up a lot of desk space, and it was also maybe like 15 bucks on Amazon Prime at the time. So I use this. So when I'm doing regular typing and computer usage, I have it sitting right over here. And when I decide that I'm going to have a motherboard in front of me, what I do is I put it up here, so it gets leaned up on this thing for the C key. And then when I start doing board repairs, I have my soldering station here. So I have the Hakko FX951 for soldering. I have the JBC JTA for hot air with this little holster on the side. I have my Amtech flux right over here. So it's right next to my solder paste, Amtech solder paste, which I'll be selling soon. I have my alcohol over here. I have a paper towel dispenser. By dispenser, I mean I'm using my microscope stand to dispense paper towels. If I want a clean room wipe, just to be a little more professional, I have clean room wipes right on top of the speaker over there, so it's within reach. And I have my alcohol dispenser here. I have the multimeter here. I purposely have these routed down here so that if I'm walking in, I don't trip over the multimeter probes. I also have it set up where, so that I can always easily grab them, but it's not taking up my core bench space. So on my desk, I want for this general area an arch like a rainbow, like, starting from here to here. I want this to start off as not having anything on it, but I want everything to be within reach, so I can go here, here, here. I don't have to wheel over somewhere, and I don't have to get up. Over here, I'll have my Captain tape. I have thermal paste. 2 sets of tweezers, 1 set of real tweezers, 1 set of tweezers that I use for scraping and stabbing and doing things that you're not supposed to do with tweezers. I have my conformal coat pen of green stuff here. I have my adhesive here for the very rare case that I actually have to, fix, do a standard repair. I have my cutters here. This is good for jumper wires. I have my SMC stencil and also my SMC clamp over here. I have smaller jumper wires over here, so this is for when this is my magnet wire, which is insulated, but I also have the uninsulated battery wire over here that I can cut this up into pieces. Yeah, my S5 is not going to focus on that at all. I have my Goot wick for desoldering. I have this Captain tape over here, which comes in handy when I need to cover something that's going to get hot. I have the other clamp over here, which is useful for iPhone boards. And so this is my desk area, and then over here I have the microscope. So the microscope is to my left. So the whole idea here is that this is never in the way of me being able to do my general work. So if I'm looking at the schematics, if I'm editing a video, anything I don't need them, or if I'm looking through tickets I don't need the microscope for, it's right over here. So I've set this up I'm using this old broken drill, actually, with the drill charger and battery as a counterweight, so that I can have the microscope stand very far away from my work area. So what I do is I pull this thing out when it's actually time to work, so I can just pull it out a little bit like this, retighten it, And then when I want to work, what I do is I take my air filter and I put it right over here. I route it around here. And then I just swing the microscope over, like so. And here we go. So I can start working. And you know, sometimes I'll do 2300S from Omano, which again, I would actually recommend not buying, not because it's a bad microscope, but because the people from Microscope.com are just kind of pieces of shit. You know, they said that I engraved things into their microscope when I engraved nothing into a return. And I went over this in many videos, how I just kept getting stuff from them that, like, I videotaped it and I showed you proof that none that their stuff was just never working. And they just came up with every excuse in the book to not refund me on any of the broken shit they had sent me. But this is the Omano 2300S microscope, which for some reason I'm still giving them publicity for, and the JW11 stand. I like this better than the articulating thing. So yeah, I can move this into place, and then I have the air filter going around here, so it's right next to where I'm working. So I don't have the air filter back here, I don't have it up there, I have it right next to the point where I'm soldering, and that's very important because that's where you're going to get all the fume extraction done. That's where how you're going to avoid inhaling any of this shit. So when you have the fume extractor this close, you could be doing all sorts of stuff, and you'll never even tell that you were soldering, which is great. That sits down here for the basic reason that this doesn't come with a foot switch, so I like being able to just simply kick it on and off. I like being able to go kick on, kick off, kick on, kick off. And that's that. I have my bench power supply over here, which lifts my microscope up to the height that I want it to be at. And it also is, you know, where I keep all my screwdrivers. So I keep my screwdrivers in a very specific order here. I have the pentalobe for iPhones first. I have pentalobe for MacBook Retinas and Airs next. Then I have the mortar by size. I have a T5. I have a T6. Then I have a Phillips. You may wonder why is the T8 not come next. It's because I very rarely, if ever, have to use a T8 screwdriver. There's also a spare T6 here, and there's also a battery screwdriver here, which again, I almost never have to use, so it sits there. And then since the Phillips is so common, just in case somebody steals it or I lose something, I also keep a second Phillips right by here with magnets. I have magnets for every single thing that I'm working on. I have this so that I don't lose any of the screws. Then I have the Seiki. This is the Seiki 40-inch 4K screen right here for viewing schematics. This is absolutely amazing. Also amazing for video editing. So what I use for capturing video here, and I'm afraid since I'm doing so many encodes at once that if I just click something I'm going to freeze it. I use Open Broadcaster for capturing, and then I use Vegas for editing. So yeah, this is, let's just, might as well turn the camcorder on just so I could show you how this would even work. So I have these shortcuts on the keyboard over here. See, that's me recording. Now also I can set it to show on that monitor over there, which is probably a bad idea right now, but yeah, see? Laggy, but it's showing me. And let me just close that before I destroy this computer. So again, that's pretty cool so that I can see what's actually getting recorded in the microscope. And the microscope camera is over here, and that camcorder over there both go to HDMI capture cards in the computer. So these are Teal CS 3.6 speakers that I have here. This is for listening to music at work. These are also acoustic panels so that the music sounds decent. And again, I like nice sound, I like nice music. In any standard office environment, nobody in their right mind would let an employee bring all this crap to work and put it on the walls, but luckily I don't work in a regular office. I work in my office where I get to do what I want. So if I want to have 200 pounds worth of speakers and all these acoustic fiberglass panels on my wall, I can, and fuck anybody who wants to bitch about it. I have the Parasound amplifier under the desk where I can just kick it on when I want to listen to music. And then that's the computer over there. So let's go over the computer that I use for the capturing and the video editing, because this is... So also I have a Lenovo right over here that I'm using to do the phone systems video series, which I'll be publishing soon. I know that a lot of people don't come to this channel to learn about general IT, but I really suggest that you actually watch that video series when it gets posted. So, you know, I only show you a very small portion of how you can make money in the tech field, and I show you this very, very little niche section of component level motherboard repair. But I've been saying recently, like, you should try to do things that are not just laptop repair, not just motherboard repair, not just circuit board repair. And, you know, I'm trying to give you a little bit of insight into the things that I didn't really think people would be interested in. But since so many people are just so gung-ho on doing this one simple thing, this one thing their entire life, and not looking into other ways they can make money in tech, I figured I would do a small series just on some of the other things that we do. This is the Lenovo ThinkServer that I'm using for a phone system. And this is my computer! Yeah! Alright, and that's an SSD sticking out the back of it. So let's turn this piece of garbage around and show you what's going on. Let's see if I can turn it around without turning it off. That would be a fucking miracle. Alright, let's try not to freeze anything. This is going to be fun. Okay, here we go. So, yeah. So, this is one of those really rad gamer, whatever, you know, ricer people heat sinks that I have here. I don't know that I remember the name of it, but it's one of those heat sinks where they have these special brackets for the fan. And God forbid you buy a different fan, it will never fit on with the brackets that came with it. I also managed to lose the brackets. I contacted the company and I never heard back on getting new brackets. So what are you gonna do? I'm not spending another $60-70 for another fucking heatsink for this machine. So I got this. What I did is I used what I have. So, you know, a lot of people ask, why do you use this tool to do this job? Why don't you use that? And my common answer is because this was the thing that was right. This was the thing that that was sitting next to me. So I often try to solve problems with what is sitting next to me, and I have a lot of spare old Cat5 wire, and I use the Cat5 cable inside of the Cat5 cable for the power supply here for, you know, the finding shorts in the board. So I figured I would use it for hanging, for hanging the fan. So that is pretty much being used. On the other side, it's being this fan on the heatsink over here is going over to the fan that's screwed into the computer, and same on this side. Then you also have these two fans over here. You may wonder what these two fans are for. These are to increase airflow to the graphic card, because the graphics card itself is actually has been dying for a while. So, so I used to sell these R9 280X cards a few years ago for Litecoin mining, and somebody returned one. I RMA'd it to Vision Tech, and I just put it in here, and it worked. It worked really good for like 6 months, and then. Now, anytime the card goes over 55 Celsius, if it goes a degree over 55 Celsius, the computer just totally crashes. So I run the card, as you can hear. Yeah, the fan is on all the way, but in addition to the fan being on all the way, I also have these two fans over here with, you know, again, they're tied to one another. This one over here is tied to the side of the case, and then it's also hooked up over here just to give it that nice rigidity so that, you know, see, I can move it around. I don't have to worry about it going anywhere. So that provides additional airflow both to the motherboard, because you see you have this big heatsink over here for the motherboard. A lot of people who get into these crazy overclocking setups, they get all this cooling for the CPU, but they let the stuff, you know, their PCH or the Northbridge or Southbridge or MCP burn, which I never understood. I try to get a little bit of even airflow everywhere. This is a totally fucked up ass setup, don't get it twisted. So I have one SSD down there for the operating system. I have two terabyte hard drives in RAID 0, just for like dumping stuff before, you know, the final encode. And then I have two SSDs up here. They don't have mounts. And the reason they don't have mounts is because I got these, you know the $5 or $6 SSD mounts. Well, this fucked up case, the Antec case, I think this is like the 900 or something. They have these screws. And so there's long screws, not short screws, long screws that screw into the drive, and for some reason they were screwing up all, no pun intended, all the SSD mounts inside of the case. So I couldn't get them to work with the standard SSD mounts. After about 10 minutes, I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to throw them inside here. And yes, that is a SATA cable. That is actually, that SATA cable over there, see that? That is Captain Tape. That is Captain Tape on that SATA cable that actually has a piercing in it. But it still works, which is great. Again, the graphics card, over 55 Celsius and it dies. So that's why I don't use my open broadcaster monitor as much as I used to. This case, I'm going to admit I have garbage cable management. I'm not good at cable management, but this case is pretty much shit for cable management. You're just supposed to pull everything out the back over here, which gives you very little room, and then slam everything shut. Again, I'm not good at cable management. This is another SSD I added because I noticed ever since I got the new capture card and I've been recording 422 uncompressed lossless video. I was recording 420 before, but now it's like it takes up more space. So I got that. Then I ran out of SATA cable, so now I'm just using this thing for another 1 terabyte of storage for a different video that I'm doing. I'm getting to a point where literally every one of these videos I do winds up being its own SSD, and then I just put them back for later. So this is the computer. Again, I don't overclock this, but just to give you an idea on hardware, that's 6-core, 3.3 gigahertz Haswell i7. That's 16 gigabytes of quad-channel RAM, which is not enough at all because with the video, 1 or 2 encodes, and I'm using 15.9 gigs and everything is slow. R9 280X graphics card, ASRock Extreme 99 3 or 4 edition motherboard, and that's a Seasonic power supply. I think Seasonic makes some really good stuff. I think that's like 600 watt power supply or so, which six or 700, I forget. I think 700 something. I like Seasonics because they're usually quiet, and they have very low ripple. I like power supplies with low ripple. I like stuff that doesn't kill my computer. I don't overclock. I used to overclock, and I don't anymore. I used to overclock when I was a teenager, and there was a specific competitive reason when it came to video encoding speeds that I really needed that 30% speed boost. As an adult, I don't. You may ask, why does your computer look like shit? Why don't you get real mounts? Why don't you take pride in this stuff? And to be 100% honest with you, I take pride in the fact that it works and that I'm able to create a YouTube channel with all this unique content on it. I don't really give two shits of a fuck about, whether I can encode 20% faster. Honestly, that used to be something I cared about, and here's the thing with that, let's say, to get a real overclock, I mean like a real, I mean an honest overclock, not that Super Pi 32M shit, but where you can actually run Prime 95, small FFTs for 24 hours, run Memtest for 24 hours, run Furmark for 24 hours. That takes time to find something that's stable, and that's good. And that's going to get me a computer that maybe encodes stuff, maybe, 30%, 20% faster. I have these fond memories of getting my E6400 to 3.6 gigahertz stable, or my Q6600 to 3.55 gigahertz stable, with like 24 hours of Prime 95, and, having a water-cooled setup with a SwiftTech MCW 320 radiator, and I had the radiator sitting outside of the room, so I actually had it outside the window in the wintertime so that I could get the overclock stable, so that the water wouldn't freeze. I was pouring alcohol inside the reservoir, and that was, and the machine was open with fans all over it. That was fun, but after a while, like building computers is just, there's only so much fun you can have building a computer. Like, once you get older, once you get into your 20s or your later 20s, you kind of start to want to do things with the computer. It's not really necessarily about, it's not about how fast the computer is. It's, now that I have the computer set up, what cool things can I do with it? And what I find is that any second that I spend making the computer faster or cooler, or, fixing the wiring, is a second that I'm not using to do cool things with the computer. Like, let's say, this YouTube channel, and making new videos of fixing other cool stuff. So it's really a tool. I try not to focus on the tool. I try to focus on what the tool can do for me. Which is my excuse for that. All I need this to do is be fast enough that it can encode the video in real time, and that it can play it back. That's all I give a shit about. And if it does that, I'm fine. Like, I set all that encoding and all that rendering, and all that rendering to Logarithm, and then re-encoding X264 20 gig files for YouTube. That happens when I'm sleeping. Like, I set all my encodes up right before I leave, and when I come in the next day, they're all done. Like, there's no race, there's no reason for me to go nuts with it. I just, again, I'm just not at a point in my life where I find building computers and putting them together fun. And again, if you watch the channel and you see what I'm doing every day, you understand why. It's not something that I find interesting. I never put the I/O plate on because I always cut myself on them. I've every single time I've tried to put an I/O plate on for the past, 11 and a half years of building computers, I've managed to get a cut that's so deep I thought I would cut my finger off, so I don't do that anymore. That's a health hazard. I have a StarTech capture card over here, and then this is actually a cable that just died today, so I have to dump this thing. And over here, this is a capture cable. I was using this to try to capture. I was going to use a really crappy computer just to do the PBX video before the server came in, but it didn't work, so this cable can suck it. This was another cable for an SSD. Yeah, so this is the capture card that I use for the Microscope. It does 422 capture without screwing up color spaces, which is more than I can say for those Magewell dongles I was using. Actually, this is that capture card. This is my regular graphics card. Who will make it? That's the capture card, which you probably can't see. And this is my Blackmagic capture card. So you may wonder, why do you use a StarTech capture card for the Microscope and a Blackmagic capture card for the camera? Well, I was originally going to use two Blackmagic cards, but Blackmagic people have no idea how the fuck to design this or make anything right. What they told me was that the Microscope camera wouldn't work because that's a medical HDMI device. We only make capture cards for broadcast HDMI devices. I was kind of under the impression that an HDMI device is an HDMI device and that it doesn't really matter You know, if it's broadcast, medical, pornographic, whatever the fuck it's for. But apparently that stuff does matter. So that you know, I will probably never buy black magic stuff again, because again, that was a complete waste of time installing that. Spending 6 hours of my life troubleshooting only to figure out that it just doesn't like HDMI sources sometimes for no good reason. Again, this is over here is a $300 4K television. This is a piece of fucking shit by this company, Seiki, and it works with that microscope camera. But you're telling me that you know, that a professional capture card can't. But anyway, yeah. So that's pretty much the setup. This is what it looks like from over here. A lot of people who visit say that, you know, your office looks a lot bigger in the YouTube videos than it is in person, and it is very small in person. This is very little space that I'm using to try to get a lot done. Oh yeah, also over here, I don't have the dual port Hacko station for 2 reasons. A, I'm a cheapskate, and B, I don't have a lot of space. There's only enough space on here for 1 holder, and it's in a tiny station, so I can't get something crazy. So what I do is I have this nail on the wall that I use for the iron that I'm not using. So over here I'm using the micro pencil, and when I want to change irons, I just you know, hang the other iron right there on the wall. But yeah, in terms of the computer, I know a lot of people are probably going to be disappointed that my computer is not some balls to the wall thing, and they might be disappointed that the computer that I choose to use is actually a computer with a defective graphics card. And that may seem weird when I have a machine over here that's $7,300 that's purpose is to fix graphics chips. But yeah, you have to understand that you get to a point where you just don't really feel like investing anymore at some point. You know, the graphics card is keeping me from being able to use that monitor, because if I use that, then I get closer to that 55 Celsius range, since it's resizing 1080p video to 1600 by 900 and also displaying it on 2 screens. But like, let's see. So after the Yelp video, there was a bunch of DDoSing, so I had to get a backup server. That cost money for a few months. Just recently, you know, again, I bought those new capture cards so the video would look better, and the results really, I think, show it. Like, this is an SMC video, and obviously you're not going to be able to tell because I'm taking a picture of the screen here, but that looks a lot better than the crap that I had 3 months ago. Those 2 capture cards was like, you know, about $500, $600 right there. You know, the microphone, I actually keep the microphone on the desk here. This is the DPA 40, D-Fine D88. The wireless thing broke, so I'm back to using this thing under the desk. But yeah, like that microphone was like $425. And it's just the difference between you hearing me barely above the noise of all this stuff, or you hearing me properly. You know, that was money. I've had to pay actually $500 a month for internet a month and a half in a row, because I lost the backup that I had of all these videos, and I wanted to keep them just in case a certain company decides that they don't want people knowing how to fix their stuff on YouTube and files takedown notices. So to re-download all that stuff from Google, they allow you to re-download everything. They let you re-download your video, but they only give you 5 days. And I had 6.5 terabytes, so I had to get the class of internet from Time Warner that would let me do that. All in all, I've spent about, I would say, $30,000 from my spreadsheet on the project of motherboard repair and filming motherboard repair, becoming good at motherboard repair, all that. So I've just kind of reached a point where I don't want to invest a single dime extra into the setup. And I know that sounds kind of cheap and shitty, but that's just kind of where I am. And you combine that not wanting to invest anymore with the fact that I don't want to fix stuff on my free time, and yeah, you get a computer that looks like this, that actually has a dead graphics card. Now, that graphics card has been dead, semi-dead, for, you know, like a zombie chip, for about 3 or 4 months now. And my fix was not to go on Amazon and buy another $300 or $400 quality graphics card for this and then take it out of there and plug it back in. It was to grab some Cat 5 wire and put 2 fans on it and set the fan of the graphics card to 100%. Yep. You're probably disappointed. You probably thought I had one of these riced out computers like you see with the 2 gigahertz overclock and the water cooling and the huge case and the triple radiators and the best Super Pi 32M score there is. And no, not really. And yeah, on fixing stuff in my personal time, I have no interest in my personal time towards fixing things. What I do is I'll spend extra time at work doing work and things that need to be done, but when I actually am done with work, when I walk out the door, I'm done. Like, I'll spend a lot of time on tech at work, but when I'm done, I'm done. I don't want to touch a screwdriver. I don't want to touch a soldering iron. I want like when I go home, I have a TV that hasn't worked right for about 3 or 4 years. It's had when you touch it in a certain spot, the lines flicker. I haven't opened it. I just don't care to. Like, the whole idea. A lot of people will say things like, "Well, if you're a repair technician, your own stuff should work." That's just. It just shows that you care about what you do, and it shows that you're good at what you do, or it just shows that you have that you should feel some type of shame if you don't. And the reality is, if I spend 11 or 12 hours at work every day to do all this stuff, well, shouldn't I have enough money that when I go home with my limited spare time that I can just buy a new one? Like, that's the whole idea. It's not to spend that. Eventually your time is going to become much more valuable than money. So if you're spending a lot of time at work, one would hope that you're becoming more valuable at your craft, meaning you're making more money, meaning that in your free time you should simply be able to buy something new instead of fix the old shit. Like when my wireless microphone thing broke, so in the recent videos there's been some static and some hiss and a lot of that stuff. I'm not opening up a $100 transmitter to fix it. I'm tossing that thing in the trash. And I haven't even bought a new one. I just attached the wired adapter, and that's that. So I've kind of rambled on, and I'm not sure if I've answered everybody's questions when it comes to my setup or what I use for these recordings, but that's about it. And this is what my setup looks like, and it allows me to be very efficient. It allows me to work on a lot of things very quickly. Forgot to show you the solder spool there, and it's just ergonomic for me. I have space. Again, I showed you the chair. I use an Aeron chair. These things are very comfortable. So this is, it just allows me to get stuff done. I have my free area. Actually, I didn't show you the board parts bin, so I have a bin of boards there that I steal parts from all the time. Those are the boards with the holes in them that you can buy on AliExpress. And yeah, I have a nice big screen for schematics, a hot air station, solder. Everything is right in front of me. It's easily within reach, and I have a table where I can just dump stuff when I'm working on something and I just need to dump something somewhere and get it away from my primary workspace. The most important thing to being motivated to actually get work done and do things properly, the best motivation is when you have a setup where everything makes sense in front of you. It'll make just coming to work and banging stuff out a lot easier. That's that.